Happy Feature
Podcast.
Legal prostitution. You're on your way home from work. You're going to stop by the supermarket when you notice a bright red light coming from the business next door. You make your way toward that light. A woman opens up the door with a bikini on. You look around. You see a police officer. You wave hello. Then you go right in. You're here with Cosmo, also known as Cosmosis, on the Happy Future Podcast. Today we're discussing legal prostitution. Yes, legally getting what you want when you want it. And legally, they have this in some places around the world. One of those places is the U.S. They also have it in part of Western Europe, and they also have it on the western portion of South America. And more interestingly enough, a big portion of the border of South America, it's legal to have prostitution. You know, this is in contrast to the limited state of Nevada, where prostitution is allowed in the U.S. And they also have it in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. But aside from there being legal prostitution currently today, there's a misconception, particularly in the U.S. Prostitution is not legal in the entirety of Nevada, particularly Las Vegas. It's only legal in certain counties. And these counties are surrounding Vegas. They're legal. You know, there is a restriction on the population size for a particular county because it's legal based on county size in the U.S. And it's not technically legal everywhere. Particularly in Nevada, in certain counties, it's legal if you have a actual parlor. If you have some kind of burlesque shop, and then it's legal. But outside of that, it's not legal. So that's a misconception. But if we're talking about Amsterdam in the Netherlands, they have a red light district. You can damn near get whatever you want. You know, you see a red light, you go in, and you get it. Aside from that, in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, they got some canals. You can go to some coffee shops, maybe with free concerts. But other than that, you can get what you want. So, but we're talking about legal prostitution. You know, we're talking about it being legal almost damn near everywhere. So, right now, is that good? Is it good to have legal prostitution? Well, first, let's look at it. We already have prostitution probably everywhere. More than likely, it's everywhere. We have different forms of prostitution. You know, one form is where you actually go somewhere and you pay. You pay for sex. You know, it's you know where you're going, you know what it's about, and you pay for it. Another form is that you meet, like you go to a massage parlor, for example, and there's this transaction that's under the table where you get sex. But you never necessarily went there, like you're not going to a burlesque house to get sex. You just happen to get sex. You know, you might know where you're going, but it's like undercover prostitution. That's another form. The other form that people, that's up for debate is that you meet a woman or, a woman meets a man and you hang out and you buy her things and, she gives you sex or he gives you sex. That's a form of prostitution. By the definition of prostitution, you're paying for sex in one way or the other. So we have a form of prostitution across the board. We're talking about it being legal prostitution. We have to think about whether it's good and whether it's something that can basically be similar to prohibition in the U.S. where you already have it and you kind of like want to manage it and don't let it, spur it out of control. But, technically it's already been out of control. There's child prostitution. There's, children trafficking. There's sex trafficking. These things have to be addressed, and maybe making prostitution legal can fix this problem, or at least manage it. So let's think about this. How does it work right now in Nevada? And like mentioned before, in Nevada, prostitution being legal is only legal in certain counties. The only problem with that is like people don't have access to it. You go to Vegas, you go with your boys. Yeah, street walking is not legal. You cannot pick up prostitutes on the street. You cannot even go somewhere that's not have a license and get prostitution. And people don't have access to it in Nevada. In Amsterdam, you gotta damn near take a $2,000 flight and get to Amsterdam, and then you can legally get what you want. So people can't get what they want so easily. South America, you gotta go all the way to South America. That's a trip. It's a big deal. You kind of want to get it at home. Aside from that, we have to think about safety issues when it comes to legal prostitution. One of the safety issues, aside from diseases, is, for example, rape. That's one of the big safety issues. How do you curtail someone being raped? That's a big issue. One way to curtail someone being raped is, with the pimp kind of thing. Someone comes with her or with him and kind of watches, stays in the car, lets you know what's going on in case something happens. They can, bust in, call the police. I don't know. Another way, they can be registered. So since it's legal prostitution, the client is basically goes on some form of registry that lets them know, and so does the worker, the sex worker, gives their information on some registry. So if something happens, they know you had this interaction. You're on that registry. It might not be a public, it can be a private registry. Register the police. If something happens, they know you were part of it. That might solve the issue. Another problem, aside from rape, is pregnancy. Whether you wear a Jimmy hat, you're wearing a condom or not, or whether, they have female condoms as well. So whether there is some kind of prophylactic involved kind of decides whether or not there's a baby. So are you going to wear protection? Is that going to be required? If you do have a baby, say the condom breaks, for example, is that an issue? How is pregnancy going to be, you would expect that, they would have abortions. Abortion is the thing today. So you would think that wouldn't be the biggest issue. You can have an abortion. Another thing is we have to think about wages. How would the wages change? Will the price go up? Will it go down? You would think since it is legal, there'll be more competition. You'll get it for cheaper. That's a possibility. Aside from, the pricing, and aside from, some of the issues involving pregnancy, we have to think about also about the workers and their businesses. How do they get jobs now? How do they go about getting a job? Do you file an application to get a job now? Can you just walk right in? Is it like a independent contractor status? Are you an official employee? They have that in the Netherlands, where you have to be a registered sex worker. Is that something that people are willing to do? Are you willing to sign up and say, oh, I'm a sex worker? There's going to be backlash from a societal aspect, and people got to decide how public is their information going to be and their position in society, because it's no longer going to be underground at this point. So those are some of the major things we have to consider with legal prostitution. And another thing is legally, is there going to be taxes on legal prostitution? Are you going to be taxed? You go get a prostitute. Are you going to pay taxes on it? Is it just a cash-based transaction? And they're probably going to tax you on it, more than likely, because, it's legal now. So there's legal implications. The government want to get their hands, on some of that money. That's how it works with alcohol today. And it's probably how it's going to work with legal prostitution. Legal prostitution. Good or bad idea? What do you think? You're having fun? Ha 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 ha.
Happy Future Podcast.